Hello and welcome to the Rat Nest Podcast, episode number 67 with Andrew from Bloody Gums. Hey, hands up, dude. That's how we do it.
It's early in the morning.
Yeah,
let's fucking do it.
Yo, this might be the earliest we've done one in a long time. So
Are you a morning person?
I'm a decent morning person.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the older I get, the more I like being up early.
Mm-hmm.
But when I wasn't working, definitely stayed up late.
Yeah.
And slept in late. What about you?
I'm up at like 6:30 every day.
Yeah, when I texted you at like 8 this morning, you were like, "Yeah, I'm good. Just let me finish the coffee." I was like, "All right, fuck yeah."
I told you I have two dogs. One's a little Yorkie.
Yeah,
she's like 8 years old. She's got her own alarm clock or something. Every morning 6:30, she's outside barking.
Yo,
and I got neighbors, so I'm just like, I gotta get up, bring her inside.
Does your dog sleep in the bed with you?
No, she sleeps in her own little like dog runner.
Okay, so we're idiots and we let the dog sleep in the bed with us.
Yeah.
And so at 5, 6 in the morning, she wants to get up too, probably because she hears birds or
I don't know what it is.
Whatever it is.
Every day, like never fails.
Yeah, she's my little alarm clock.
Yeah.
And then normally I can go back to sleep for like 2 hours after that, maybe like till like 8. But every morning I'm awoken by like, like let me off the bed.
Yeah.
And it's not like she doesn't go out at night. It's crazy, man. She just wants to be outside.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't matter what day it is, what she did the night before, whatever. If like I kept her up late or whatever, 6:30 every morning. She's there, and then she's like in the spot between me and my neighbors, and she's just barking super loud, and I feel bad because I'm like, oh, my neighbor's gonna get pissed. You know, it's like it's early in the morning.
Yeah, and that's the struggle too. I think small dogs lend themselves to that stereotype where it's like they're yippy. They're they're like
yeah.
But in the desert, man, fuck it. No one's out there.
Yeah.
I don't care, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just like, let her bark. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I've been leaning more to the desert for that reason. There's just like a lot more openness and like less density of people, you know? It's nice.
Do you like that though? Because did you grow up in like the cities? Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Riverside.
So it's decently populated. Yeah, that's a big city.
Still, like they had yards, you know, and like we always had Mexican neighbors having parties till like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then like roosters waking everybody up at like 6 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
So like that's kind of normal.
I wonder if that's a Southern California thing, just like your neighbors having roosters.
Yeah, I mean it could be a Midwest thing too, though, but they're probably spaced out more.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like the suburbs there seem a little bit more spaced out.
Yeah.
Suburbs in Southern California are still kind of tight.
Yeah. Well, so where I was at was still like we were in tract homes, but one street away was like all the ranches. So now in Riverside, they're getting rid of all those ranches because they want to like make.
Yeah, it was literally like chicken farms and like different stuff like that.
I mean, goats, cows, horses. A lot of people we knew, just neighbors, livestock. Horses. Like it was like a normal thing for kids to come to school with a ringworm because they all had horses, you know. So like we had to deal with the ringworm. It's funny because 2 of my friends just got ringworm recently. And I'm like, oh man, like, do you know somebody who has horses?
How do you get it now? Yeah, how do you get it as an adult?
Yeah, I guess going to the gyms.
Oh, that's gnarly. That's why I don't go to the gym, dude.
Yeah, that's my excuse too. Yeah, ringworm, you know.
Hey, you gotta watch out, dude. I don't want any of that ringworm. Yeah. That's fucking funny, man. So you grew up in Riverside. Let's take a step back. For anyone listening that doesn't know, our connection or what you do with Bloody Gums, where did it all start, and like give us a little background on like what it is all about.
All right. Where I started and where Bloody Gums started is 2 different things because I actually didn't start Bloody Gums.
Okay.
So what ties us together is Riverside.
Got you.
The person who started Bloody Gums is he goes by Max Wild, and he does a lot of different things now. He's still part of it 100%, but he was already doing his own stuff, and I was simultaneously doing my stuff at the same time. So what I was doing was I was doing music shows, pop-ups, you know, like basements, bars, whatever.
Right.
Like maybe I started like
more of like a promotion kind of stance on it.
Definitely
like
started with
the
music.
Guy that sets it up.
Yeah, production, promotion, all that stuff like that. I started maybe like 17, 18 years old. I used to work with Showcase Theater a lot.
Yeah. I played a show at Showcase right before they closed down.
I think everybody.
That was a legendary. I think maybe the last 2 weeks before they closed.
You know what was cool was they had a record label that had all kinds of international acts coming through.
Yeah.
So for like underage kids in Inland Empire, there wasn't a lot of options to see Subhumans or the Addicts,
dude,
or
really good like punk and hardcore bands, like, and it was a good space. Like it was really big cool space.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, it just burned down recently. The building.
It burned down.
It's been empty since they shut down, and then just recently there was a fire because you remember there was that pizza shop right next door.
Wow, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the fire started at the pizza shop, and then I think they actually tore it down like last month or the month before.
Dude, that's a bummer. That's a Southern California staple.
Yeah.
And like more of an underground one than, you know, the ones you think of in LA. You know, everyone's like, oh, the Roxy, the whiskey.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about the smaller town like theater like that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's weird because Riverside, San Bernardino, Redlands, we've always been like on a tour route because a lot of bands from the East come through here to get to LA.
They can catch a show before LA, yeah.
Or if they're coming from San Diego up to LA, they're kind of passing through here more or less.
Make a couple days out of it,
you know? So we've always had like a pretty good music scene. And then on top of it, you know, before Golden Voice acquired whatever the group that runs Coachella now is, before that they were 98 Posse that was in Riverside, so they were bringing like Rage Against the Machine at UCR,
the barn,
exactly they used to do that. They did the Orange Blossom Festival. It's like the first event where Gwen Stefani performed with No Doubt. I mean, like we're saying this now and that's old and whatever, but like at the time, you know, No Doubt was like a big band for the time, you know, like Morrissey came and like they had to like add a second date because it sold out in like 15 seconds. This is before Coachella. This is when the internet was still fairly new.
This is Ticketmaster days.
You know,
there was lines at the record shops to get tickets. You
used to go to a Warehouse Records to go buy tickets, you know, for these things. This is like still pretty early. We're like, it's funny because we're on that fringe. We're like, yes, we grew up with technology, but it wasn't like, I remember when YouTube was brand new and like the thing that got us all hooked was this fucking video of a cat that like, you know, they had a piece of string on a fan or something like that. He caught on the fan, like did like 3 loops and like shot off into the wall.
That was YouTube.
That's how us as teenagers got and discovered and got into YouTube, was like this one specific video that we probably watched like way too many times, but it was fucking hilarious. We never seen anything like that before. Yeah. Like on a platform where it was like, oh, I can just search this and find it. Like I could search random things and shit I don't know about will pop up, you know? I didn't have to like know about something, go physically find that online. Like what? Like, oh man, what's all the old websites like?
Well, because I was just talking about this to my wife, I think. I was like, yeah, I used to go to my mom's like office building after school in like junior high, and they had the internet, and I was like, oh, I can watch skate videos. Yeah. But you knew the exact website to like go to watch that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they didn't have...
it wasn't something you could just like browse around.
Because those browsers weren't a thing until more later on in the internet life. Because like, you know what, there was like Bing, Ask.com.
Yeah. Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves. Yeah. Like all those were like the early ones before Google became like this crazy monopoly.
So it was like specifically searching for like Rodney Mullen skate video.com or like whatever. Some fan made a site.
Yeah. Like we make fun of people if they still have like a Yahoo email account.
Yeah.
Or like
I fuck with people that still have Hotmail accounts and I'm like, you rule, dude. Like
that's really holding on.
That's OG.
To the past. Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to have an AOL, you know, still.
Every once in a while, you know, if they're old enough, you'll find somebody with an AOL one.
So funny.
Yeah.
Doesn't even, do you remember getting like the CD obviously in the mail? It was like 1,000 free hours of AOL.
And then there was like a wave more recently of like artists that would do art with those discs because they were just like everywhere. Yeah. And then, that was a fad that passed really quickly. But, but yeah, that was a thing for a minute.
So you started off doing, you know, kind of setting up shows and getting people together. Were you doing music too, or were you just kind of like...
I played music, but I was never in a band. It's just hard to get a band together. Like back then, even now, it's just hard to get 3-4 people in a room at the same time. Yeah. You know? So I had these jam sessions that I would do at my house on Thursdays. So the bands that would play at the shows, like 1 or 2 of them from each band would come through. We'd all jam. And that was kind of fun because like if somebody was a guitar player in their band, but they also played bass or drums or whatever, like this is like where they would get to switch up.
Right, you could get to switch up shit.
Yeah, and like I really tried to keep it to, I mean, I didn't really try, it just happened that like everybody who would come to these jam sessions played a little bit of everything. Yeah. So they enjoyed this because it was like I said, if a guitar player could play drums for a night with like people who like knew how to make a song, structure and stuff like that. So we used to do that. That was kind of like the tying factor, the community part of it, you know, and then we do the shows. The shows were good. all local bands, no like crazy promotion production. It was just like all just a bunch of kids just doing it on their own.
Were you were like living on your own at this point? Like, or is this at like your parents' house? Or?
I was doing a little bit of everything. I was like couch surfing. There was times where I had my own apartment. There was times where I had an apartment with my brother. There was, it was just kind of a dirtbag. I used to sleep at the cemetery.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I couched it for years, even when I didn't really need to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd just rather be at the homie's house where it was happening.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll just crash here, whatever.
I had a friend who had like a garage. It was like the party garage. His parents just, it's like one of those things in high school, like their parents got divorced. And so like the mom was like living her best life. So not really paying attention to the teenage son, you know,
like you do you.
So there was like a lot of different stuff like that. But I kind of got tired of the music scene, and then I like decided I want to do the art scene. I was making flyers for the shows.
Yeah, I was saying
a lot of people,
maybe this is the
stuff like that.
The common ground that leads us to be people that kind of represent other artists, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're involved in everything, but you're kind of just like the promoter / graphic designer / booker / getting everyone together.
I think I always leaned towards the behind the scenes stuff because like, okay, what got me into music was skateboarding. And then even with skateboarding, I was like the camera guy in skateboarding. You know, I never wanted to be on camera. I was always skating with the guys. I mean, they were definitely a lot better than I was. But I was there, but I was the camera guy. You know what I mean?
Dude, so I skated a lot growing up. Yeah. I mean, that's how actually me and Richie knew each other before we knew each other,
makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
We were kids in high school.
He's still so fucking good.
Dude, he was good then.
And he's still good.
And so we had like crews that we skated with. His was literally called like The Crew. They had like a video out like on a VHS that they would dub, and like ours was called Slow.
Yeah.
Stupid Losers on Wheels.
Okay.
And we were like friends, but also just like didn't know each other at all.
Sure.
We just skated together.
Yeah.
So it was funny when we re-met and we kind of like figured that out.
Yeah.
But so I broke my ankle really bad. Maybe I was like 15 or 16. Shattered that shit, like a spiral fracture. I had to have like reconstructive surgery. And my mom made me promise not to skate anymore, but she would buy me a computer with editing software.
Okay.
So
that's a cool way to like trade off.
I could film and edit shit. And I still skated, obviously, you know, there's no stopping it. But that kind of was the transition where I started doing work for like the other guys and like putting the videos together and doing that kind of thing. But it's funny, it's exactly the same. It's like, yeah, you're the guy behind the cameras, and then you sit there and you're watching skate videos, you're getting inspired by like songs. Like that's how, you learn so much music from, back then, the Shins and all this punk rock stuff. And just depending on the videos, like, oh, what is this grungy ass shit? Oh, is Dinosaur Jr., whatever it is,
I think we found Dead Kennedys through a skate video.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like 11 years old, suburban kids, like I said, like internet's not a thing yet. So like, we used to find a lot of stuff through that like definitely like,
do you remember
who we were? Do
you remember any like what were like the standout videos for you? What era were you?
So bad with names. I don't even remember.
I mean, all the like Trans World videos were real big.
Yeah, the CKY.
That shit was too like really big too, because then we saw it turn into Jackass.
Yeah,
and we're like, there is something to be said about this kind of thing. Like it's catapulting them into stardom.
I think that was one of the things that like gave our generation a lot of like disillusion too, though, because like it's one of those things like, oh, if you see it, you can do it, right? But like there's also a lot more work that goes into that like, kids just don't fully understand. Yeah. They just think like, oh, we're going to get a camera, we're going to get some skateboards, we're going to be these fucking guys. Because we made Jackass videos too. Like 100% we were inspired by that. But
like, did that go anywhere, right? It's like, how's everything presented? How's it all put together? You start to learn that, like you said, the back end of it.
Too. Like that's, that's a big part of everything too.
We were always stoked to like meet AMs at the local skate spots, because we could be like, hey, check out our stuff or like whatever. And they're just like, all right, kid, we're just little kids, And
it's funny because like, even in the art world, like now, like doing art shows and people come up to me like, oh, this is my shit. And I'm like, cool, man. Like there's not really much I could do with that at this moment, like put in a bunch more work and then we could talk, Do
you get it like constantly? Like
all the time.
Dude, people, because of what we do, I think representing other people.
Yeah.
I think if you're younger it might seem like you can just present your stuff like, oh, I do art, or like I do illustration, I do comics.
I don't hate it. You got to shoot your shot.
No, dude, shoot your shot.
That's how you learn, you know?
I always am like very nice to kids that hit me up about that stuff.
Yeah. I think what people, the part that like is funny to me is I think people think that I'm like farther than I really am.
Oh,
you know?
totally.
Like they think like, oh, a show with Bloody Gums is going to like make me. It's like, I mean, it'll be a fun show. Like we have fun, you know, you'll get into a spot maybe you didn't get into before, but.
Well, I mean, you rep a bunch of good artists, like solid people that are working for themselves, that are making their names, and you know, they're part of the collective. So
I think this is a good spot where we can like talk about Bloody Gums, right? Because Bloody Gums is just again, a bunch of DIY dudes just doing it. It's not really like an organized organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same as Rat Nest, dude.
Yeah. It's just like everybody's independently doing some badass shit. We're all friends or connected somehow.
Yeah.
And so what I do in this role is me and now Chris in the last few years, and now Jerry, Lazaro has done a few of these, Richie's done a few of these, is basically we just like pull together all the homies or people that like we're interested in, or so, you know, something we're just discovering. We'll pull them all together. We'll do a big group effort. Everybody kind of like puts in their part, you know, and that's why it's more of a collective than anything, because I think everybody like equally shares the work to make things happen.
Yeah.
You know, there's not really like a lot of money.
Absolutely.
You know, we're all just like doing it. And I mean, what's cool though is that when you're in a situation like that, it's a trade-off, right? Because like you don't have budget, but you have freedom. So, you know, a lot of this stuff like Deladesso, he'll like make stuff out of cardboard, but it looks freaking amazing, you know, but you also think like, okay, cool. If we had a budget, like we could do this with fiberglass, we can mold it, stuff like that. So it's like, we always talk about like proof of concept, you know? So we're showing people like we can do these things, you know, we're fully capable of doing these things, you know? Obviously there's more potential with like different materials, different accessibility, stuff like that, you know? And like, I think we're all actively working towards that, in each individually, but also collectively. So like we've gotten opportunities to do things over the years. I mean, shit. So, okay. So where I started with Bloody Gums was 2016. Well, maybe a little bit before that. Max was still running it, but he had some life stuff come up. So he was like, hey, I'm going to take a step back. I had just gotten my first tattoo was a Bloody Gums tooth. And I was like, oh, no. Like, this isn't just going to go away. I have this tattoo now. Like, I have to, like, you know, like.
Gotta put in work now.
Something,
yeah,
you know? So I was like, I'll keep the seat warm for you while you know, go through your life stuff and everything like that. I'll run it. Tell me what you had in mind, and I'll, like, do a version of that. So we talked. He kind of mentioned, like, really the boils down to is, like, collaboration, you know? Mm-hmm. So even till today, like what you'll see in Bloody Gums that's actually super unique is you'll see these different artists work on something together. And that's what actually makes the shows really special, is like you have all these artists who are individually are really great artists and they have their own things, but then you'll start to see these crossovers happen where like Tofu and Deladesso will do something together. Lazaro, Deladesso, Tofu will do something together. I'm sorry, when I'm saying Lazaro, I mean Anta 52.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we got Anta 52, these are the key artists in the group mainly that have like the backbone. Anta 52, Deladesso, Tofu, Willie, Jerry, Roman's behind the scenes, but he's a huge part of the production side of it, but most people will never see him. And then we got, you know, other guys that, you know, also do a lot of stuff. Berg Visual, Balloonsky, Tommy, we all have a studio together now. So, there'll be even more stuff coming in collaboration with those guys as well.
Is that the studio in Cerritos you were telling me about?
Sereno, yeah, El Sereno.
Oh, El Sereno.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and since we're talking about that, we're doing a pop-up on the 28th, right across the street in El Sereno. That's going to be probably the first of a seasonal situation that we're doing.
Sick.
So we have the studio in El Sereno. We're working on making a store for the front that might launch around like April.
Okay.
You know, I think honestly that's like pretty safe to say. So we'll probably be doing seasonal pop-ups in El Sereno, in conjunction with like any drops we're doing with the store, etc. The other seasonal pop-ups we're probably going to start doing is most likely at Tio's Tacos. We did that one that you came and popped up at.
Yeah. For your birthday, man. Thanks again. That was so much fun.
That was one of my most fun birthdays. I have had 2 really fun birthdays at Tio's Tacos.
Nice.
So that was a really good one.
That place, I mean, for anyone, there's not a lot of people listening to this, but if anyone's listening in the Inland Empire, go to Riverside, go to Tio's Tacos. It's an art installation and bomb tacos. It's insane. It's
basically the same concept as Meow Wolf way before Meow Wolf. You know, it's a fully immersive, like the guy's been working on it for 30 years. It's all recycled materials out of his garden. It's a story about his family. Just like a ton of stuff. Like you can go there. I've been going there easily 15 years and I still see new stuff every time I go.
Right. It's one of those places like when you first start smoking weed or like something, you're like, let's go here. Cause it's so much to look at visually. It's just anywhere you look is insane. Yeah. You know, it's so cool. And I mean, I lived in San Diego for 15 years and then I moved out to the desert. So I hadn't been around the IE, close in like 2 decades. Yeah. So it was really cool to be introduced to that. And the people I talked to about it knew the spot and they're like, oh yeah, it's a rad spot. Like
if you're from IE, you've probably been there at least once. You probably passed by it at least once. You know, there's a smaller percentage that have like gone there at least once. And then an even smaller percentage that goes there like all the time, but it's still a pretty large number. You know, like
it's a big space too. That back patio area is gigantic.
He has a hotel in Mexico too.
Really?
Yeah.
He's just an entrepreneur.
Yeah. He's a good dude. He started off as shining shoes on the street in where is he from? Zaguayo, which is I think close to Michoacan. Okay. You know, but it's like one of the farther out city. State, you know? It's like a smaller place.
A little village town.
Yeah. Super cool story. Like he used to shine shoes in front of a comic book store, and if he made enough money, he'd go buy a comic book, and that's like his introduction to art was actually comic books.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. So I mean, so many people like. We're not a comic book company, but at the same time, a lot of the people that we work with are comic book enthusiasts and like comic book creators.
I mean, I'm influenced by comic books and graffiti. Like what I've been doing lately is character work. And I would say, you know, like even the way I'm outlining is very comic, you know? Yeah. It's just,
what were your like early influences as far as comics go? Do you remember like,
I mean, when I was a
cartoons
kid,
or was it comic books?
X-Men. I used to collect all the comics for X-Men. I was very into like the
Marvel cards and all that stuff.
Yeah, I used to get the holographic cards. You know, I mean, I'm talking about when I was like a child, like elementary school.
Yeah,
you know?
Me too.
It was like Pogs and X-Men cards, you know?
Right. I was a big baseball card fan. And then when I realized that no one cared about baseball cards like in elementary school and they all were into like comic cards, started getting X-Men cards and Marvel packs and, you know, trading. I was always like a big Spider-Man kid.
I like Spider-Man as a comic. I did not like the cartoon.
I rocked with the cartoon a little bit.
I mean, I watched it. I'm not going to say I didn't, but it was just like, he was too much of a smartass. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, so it's a fucking nerd that got like superpowers, you know?
Right. So in the comic book, you can almost like make your own voice for him, right? Because it's in your head. Yeah. But when they do it, in the cartoon, it's like that's what it is. Yeah, you know? So I could see that.
I liked Batman, the cartoon Batman, a lot.
The Batman was sick.
Yeah, and then I think when I got into the darker comics, Spawn was a big one.
Spawn, I remember being into like Spawn anime or like graphics, like the illustration of it. Yeah, but like even like the movie, I wasn't like. It wasn't big when I was a kid. I mean, it was big when I was a kid, but I wasn't like into it. Does that make sense?
When's the last time you watched it?
It's probably good now. I haven't watched it in so long.
Good. It's a good bad movie.
It's like it reminds me of like the Batman movies. Like it's like you know, Batman Forever is like a terrible movie, but I watched it a bunch when I was a kid.
You know, I think you know, for these earlier movies, camp was a big influence because like if you think of like the first movies that were like comics or cartoons turned into movies, like you got to think of like Dick Tracy, and Popeye,
totally
with Popeye with Robin Williams.
That was probably like late 70s, you know? Was Popeye. Dick Tracy is maybe late 80s.
And if you think of the Batman series with Adam West, that was all camp.
Oh, that was awful. But we used to watch it at my grandma's house because she was like, "Oh yeah, this is good. You should watch this."
But you know, times changed. What people are into changed. So like at the time, you know, like that's what like a lot of people lately I've been watching say like at the time that was the thing,
right?
You know, and like
it didn't seem out of the ordinary.
No, like we're laughing at it now. Like, you know, it's just like if you look at like, you know, somebody's like parents' old high school haircuts and you're just like, what the fuck were you thinking? But at the time, that was the shit, you know? And kids from our generations are going to look at us and be like, what the fuck were you wearing? Like,
well, that shit comes back around too, because it's like, we just talked to a dude that used to work for Trauma. And it's like, oh, it's the campiest shit you can make. But we thought it was so cool. Like in like high school and college, we're like, oh, this is the cutting edge of like movie making, because it's so low budget and so cheesy on purpose. Like, oh, this makes sense. But if you watch, you know, the old Batman, you're like, this is garbage. It's the same shit.
Yeah. Actually, cool thing about Trauma, a little side, is when I was working at New York Super Chief, they were really tied to Trauma. Trauma had filmed one of their more recent movies at that location that I was running in New York.
Yeah.
And we had a Trauma movie night, which was really funny because like we were all like smoking before, you know, and I had the roll up of it. I'm not thinking of shit. I'm from California. Like I didn't think weed's illegal in New York. Did not even occur to me.
Highly illegal.
A fucking undercover cop walks in, arrests the dude from Trauma. This dude gets arrested. We're like, what do we do? You know, we still do it the film night. We're waiting to hear back. This guy gets out late as fuck because they couldn't really hold him for anything. They just gave him a ticket and a court date. And but they were fucking with him. They didn't give him his shoes back. They gave him shoes from the lost and found. Like, they lost his jacket, all kinds of shit, you know. So I feel really bad. That was my experience with the Trauma guys, and like we've kept in touch since then. They're all really cool dudes. But yeah, meeting them in person and like being a fan of the stuff, it was a fun thing to do.
That's awesome.
Minus, you know, NYPD fucking up our night.
Yeah. I've been to New York a couple times, but not in a while. And when I was out there, weed was still like highly illegal.
Yeah.
And I was like 23.
Yeah.
So it was in the height of my weed smoking days.
Yeah.
So I was like, where can we get bud? And like the homie, you know, they all have delivery service. So they just would bring briefcases to your apartment and get you some stuff. But he's like, seriously, be careful on the street, because, you know, outside of concerts, while you're waiting in line, like undercovers would be busting people. It's like, that's so crazy.
New York's undercover culture is crazy. I mean, I know we have undercovers here, but the way they are out there, they like bust you for random shit. Like they'll bust you for jaywalking, shit like that.
Yeah. I feel like the undercovers out here are doing some research to bust for like bigger
big gangs or drugs or something like
exactly.
that.
Where's the stash house? Not someone smoking a joint.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy.
It's like, oh, I found 2 stems in a seed on you. You're going to jail. It's fucking crazy.
But New York's a like inspirational city too. Yeah. I don't know. What did you think? How long were you out there for?
I mean, I've been going out there my whole life. I have family out there, but when I was out there running Super Chief New York, I was there for like a solid 7 months, you know. The plan was I was going to transition over there, and then COVID hit, so I just came back. But it's really funny because like if I have to compare it to like living in California, right? Like in California, there's things we hate about California, but we still love California. Like we hate the smog, we hate the traffic, we hate the transplants, whatever. But we still love California. Like it's beautiful, you know, drive down the highway, you see mountains, trees, palm trees, all that stuff.
Right.
Beaches or whatever, but I think they're a little hype out here. But then you live in New York and they hate things about New York, but they also hate New York. You know, so
but that's just like the culture.
Yeah, that's just everybody. You know, it's like they hate the transplants, they hate the traffic, they hate the weather. You know, but then they also hate like New York itself. Like they're just like, oh, there's rats everywhere. There's this, there's that. You know, it's just like
to be a New Yorker, you're like self-defecating on
100%.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
Like, all right, fuck all this, but. You know, it's home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's weird.
I don't know. My experience with New York, because I just came back, so I went on this trip. So like every year I go out to Miami Art Week.
This is you and Jerry went on this trip. This is where you guys were at Gatorland and shit.
Yeah. So
tell me about this.
Okay. Yeah, the trip was a lot of fun. Okay, so last year Jerry road tripped it out to Miami. I go every year doing production one way or another, usually for Super Chief.
For Art Basel?
For Art Week, yeah. Usually at Scope.
Okay.
Which is in South Beach. I mean, we've done a few of them over the years, but yeah, it kind of became a thing where like I go out to Miami once a year. I have a lot of friends out there now, and it's just like Coachella, but for art. So like everybody from every city's there at once.
Yeah.
So yeah, this year I kind of went more on like a chill situation, and then me and Jerry flew out. So this time, usually what we do is we do Miami first, then we go to Orlando, and we start making our way back. But since we weren't driving this time, we were flying. Jerry found a monster truck rally in Orlando before Art Week. So we always do Orlando anyways because we go to Gatorland. So we went to the Monster Truck Rally, which was this was my first time ever going, and I was really excited. It was in Florida because I knew it'd be like a little extra rowdy.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So a friend of mine gave me some acid for my birthday, which is in October. So I was like, saved it, took it with me to New York. I took it with me to Orlando first. I took a tab of acid and went to that Monster Truck Rally, and it was amazing because like, we get there. It was like the first half. They were just pretty much doing warm-ups.
Yeah.
So like we get there, we buy a shirt, we go to our seats. This guy rides around the track on 2 wheels, and that was like the big thing, and we're like, all right, whatever. We go, intermission happens, we go get some beers, we come back to our seats. The same guy hits a ramp, pyrotechnics go off, he jumps over a bunch of cars, overshoots it, rolls the fucking car, and like the announcers are like not helping the situation. They're like, oh my gosh, like, we hope he's okay. Like he overshot that by this much, and like
he might be dead.
There's like this little Cuban family, and like Jerry was like, the kid was like, papi, esta moreta, like he fucking died.
Yeah.
we're like fucking on the edge of our seats, and this is right when for me the acid's kicking in. Like this is the first thing that fucking happens,
man.
And so we're like, did we just watch somebody fucking die? Like holy shit, They get like the fire extinguishers, medics come out, whatever. They pull him out of the car. He like gets up, does a little weak wave, like we're like, oh, and then I was just like, oh, he's alive, And then like they do a lap with him. Everybody's like losing their shit.
Holy shit.
Then it goes into a monster truck. Monster truck comes out, jumps a bunch of shit, does handstands, goes back in. They do a few races. Like the first race, these guys were
like rally car kind of, or like demolition kind of car races.
Kind of, yeah. So like the first race, like they didn't even have tires on the back wheels. They were just riding on rims, and all these cars are rear wheel drive. So they're just fucking sliding all over the track. Sparks are flying,
That's kind of dope, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Then they did like a school bus race, which didn't sound cool to me at all when they were like hyping it up. But what happens is they get 30 school buses, which is like a lot of fucking school buses. And these buses don't just get in one loop; they go in a figure 8. So they're like constantly crossing through each other.
They're just wrecking each other.
And just fucking like one like hit the wall so damn hard, a huge chunk of the wall came out. Like the fence got busted, and like there's all these signs like don't stand near the fence.
Yeah.
And like the announcer's like, that's why we say don't stand near the fence. Because it's like,
but there's 100 people right there when it's happening, right?
People watching at this thing was also amazing. Like also being on acid, but like
I was gonna say just having that perspective where you're like in your own like head, kind of like your own visual. Like
there was always something to look at no matter where I was looking. Like everything I saw was like super stimulating, right? Because like you see like car crashes over here, like some dude hits a track over there, then you're seeing like these hillbilly family over here like just being fucking real life like king of the hill,
yeah.
And then like there's like some Cubans over here, and then apparently like now there's a big Russian population in Orlando. So you just see these like gigantic hillbillies, and you think they're hillbillies, but then they start talking in fucking Russian.
Yeah.
And it's just like for a second it just throws you off because like they're just gigantic versions of the hillbillies, but like then they start talking and fucking da 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 da, and you're just like
so
it like fucks with you for a second,
Yeah.
So that was fun.
We have like Southern California. It's multicultural for sure, just because so many people move to Southern California for whatever reason, probably to pursue a career in something. Sure. But it's heavily populated by like Latino culture, and to a lesser extent, Asian, white, and black culture. But I feel like it's pretty heavily Latino. But if you go to Florida, or you go anywhere really outside California, it's a different kind of Mexican culture or Latino culture,
Yeah, it's a lot of Cubans, a lot of Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
I was dating a girl from Florida for a while, so I actually explored like more than just Miami and Orlando. That's how I found out a lot about stuff in Orlando, was because of dating her. She showed me a lot of stuff. But yeah, Florida's its own richness. Florida is like the older, tropical, smaller California with different Latinos.
I mean, I think it is the most southern spot in the U.S., right?
One of them, yeah.
Or to an extent,
like the little
Chingus, the little
whatever,
little Peter.
Yeah.
America's Wang.
Yeah, and what's funny is like going around Florida, right? Because like it's like going around California, because like like in the movies you just see, when you think of California, you're really thinking of like Santa Monica, West LA, that's all Hollywood. That's all they really show in the movies. But then you get through California, and there's like so many different parts of it that have so many different parts of different cultures, within the same state. So Florida's the same, right? Because like you go in Orlando, And you got the tourist shit. So you got like Disney World, Universal. So you have people coming from all over the world for those things, but then you go right outside of International Drive, I Drive, I think the short version. But you go outside and like there's a million different things happening, like all these different cultures and shit like that. So it's like it's actually a lot of fun. So and then going from that to Miami, and especially during Art Week, know.
Yeah, I have never been to Florida in general, but specifically Miami, everyone's like, you have to just kind of go experience it at least like once, go check it out. Cause it's got so many different things. Like, it's like, there's this big art culture now.
Yeah.
When did that, I mean, that started in the last 10 years.
Well, okay. That depends.
Well, not to say that the culture started, but with this show, with this specific once a year show that they do. I mean, it brings people from all over. It's kind of like you said, it's like the Coachella of Florida,
this is a thing, because what happens is a lot more money started coming through Miami. So the people who were there, got bigger budgets. They started learning business side of art more. So like the main graffiti crew out there, MSG, is basically a design production company now. So these dudes are still painting all day, every day. Like these guys are very actively like in the graffiti scene, everything like that. But they will also do an activation for like fucking Verizon or some shit like that. But they're still heavy graffiti dudes. They just learn how to present themselves to like a mainstream commercial market. So like they made a living out of it, Well,
that happens I think there's like cycles of that.
Yeah.
So like even throwing back like I don't know, my big inspiration when I was a kid was like the Beautiful Losers, like kind of crew. And to see all those guys do huge shit, and they're just like skateboarders or graffiti artists or, punk rock photographers. And it's like, now they get to do stuff for T-Mobile or like something. It's crazy.
I mean, I think with every art cycle, like you have the two choices is like, do you go mainstream or do you stay underground? Right. Because then you go like Dogtown, and those fools like never really fully transitioned into mainstream, like two of them. But like the rest of them like went to Mexico and fucking disappeared or some shit.
Right. They're just, they wanted to surf instead of make money. And that's admirable. Like that's awesome.
Yeah. With any art collective, even with Bloody Gums, we've had like a few situations where we had to like decide, are we going to go mainstream or are we going to stay to like more of an underground situation? And, I think as a group, we decided underground was kind of like the way we prefer because, I don't know. It's tough because, like, of course, we want all those big budgets because now we've done jobs on individually on production where we've like done these big production jobs, and it's nice. It's really nice to see like what you can do with the big production, but at the same time, like, all the compromises you have to make to get into that world.
Well, I mean, you guys have no shortage of talent, one, and then also they're doing projects for consumer companies like. Pabst Blue Ribbon or Liquid Death, and then also media companies like Tommy just did that. What was it for Amazon? The League of Their Own reboot, and they did that show, and he did that mural.
Yeah,
and that's big shit. I mean, you're working with huge companies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on a pitch for Miami for next year with a crazy big company, and like, the way it's sounding, it's going to be like celebrity loaded and all kinds of shit, which is like normally not what I would be leaning towards, but it's an opportunity, it's a huge opportunity. And like, it's already the only reason why I'm even willing to have the conversations is because it's already in line with something that I'm already doing. And so it was kind of one of those things that fell into my lap through connections and friends and stuff like that, where I was like, it was one of those opportunities where, and this is always the ideal opportunity, like me and Delideso always talk about, and a lot of these guys is like, I don't want a big company to approach me and tell me what they want. I want to go to a big company and tell them what I'm going to do, and then they're welcome to jump in on it. And this one, just like I said, just fell in my lap. So I have this big company that I'm already in a conversation with for a different project, and then they kind of mentioned this one thing, and I'm like, well, I have that connection. And then I was like, well, I'm already doing this. Like, would you want to just jump on board with what I'm doing? And so that's kind of where I'm like, okay, that's a good way to get into it. Know, is like, I'm pitching something that I'm already working on to a company that's an existing large company.
That's the ideal situation, right? Is to do what you're going to do either way.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to pay you for it, that's even better.
Even better, and that's the ideal situation. That's the dream situation.
Totally.
Where it's like, I'm not just,
Well, for lack of a better term, selling yourself for what the company wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm sure you've dealt with this a million times, is if you sign on to a project and then someone is managing what you do and really doesn't give a shit what you do, but they have a certain thing in mind and they want you to do it this way.
Yeah.
It takes all the joy out of it. It drains you really quick.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. Cause it always sounds like a good thing, and it's exciting because it's like a bigger step up or whatever. Right. And then like you get into it and you're like, it's just another fucking job. It's like, it's, and like there's a lot of situations where this happens where it's like there's this thing that I really want really bad, over the years, and like I'll like try my hardest to get it, and then like it never happens, but then I like move on to something else and I stop caring about that thing, and that's when I get it. And then it's like it's really tough because I'm like, there was a time where I would have been excited about this, you know, and then now I'm doing it and it's just a fucking job, and I'm just like, but this is fucking reality, right? Like this is like how things go, because like you can never have it all, man.
Right. But
there's always going to be something.
So, I mean, to your credit, you seem like a very like self-driven person. You handle shit really well. You're always constantly working on projects and setting up new things and shows. I mean, is there days where you just are like, fuck this?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
You just like have to like motivate yourself.
All the time. Yeah. It's like hell, right before this vacation, I was doing a big job with the guys and it was a fucking nightmare, and I just had to push through because I knew like the payoff was going to be like monetarily, the payoff was going to be good. Yeah. So I was like, just get through it. And, and this is, again, at the time, this is a fucking the worst thing in the world. Like everything that could happen wrong happened wrong, but, after doing this for a while, I'm just like, dude, I've been on bad jobs before. Get through it, get to the next one. There's always going to be something new. Yeah. Just keep moving. You're not going to win them all. There's always, even in the most ideal situation, there's still going to be some shit.
Absolutely. It's never 100% positive.
No, there's just like fantasy land, like, there's going to be a day when all my dreams come true and all this shit's going to be perfect. It's never going to fucking happen. Like even in the biggest productions, it's like the fucking, I love cliches, like more money, more problems, whatever. Like even in like the biggest productions, there is still crazy shit that happens on like, to like, the largest to the smallest level. Like nothing is ever fully smooth, Totally. It's just we start calling it like industry standard, like industry standard chaos. It's just like anything in creative world, production world is always going to have some kind of chaos. I've been on some really, really good projects and there's still crazy shit that happens.
And that's the thing with what you do, and to a lesser extent what I do, is that you're in charge of a lot of you're in charge of a lot of different things, whether it's people or setting up the show or coordinating with whatever it is, vendors. There's anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and then you give yourself a lot more opportunity for those things to go wrong because you work with so many different people and things, right? So it's like you kind of have to.
I was having this conversation, around this time we're always reflecting, especially because this is a big season for us work wise, and like then the holidays come and everything fucking stops. So we always have some time to reflect. So like I think I was talking to one of the guys about the last job and he was like, oh, but you forgot that one thing. Like that was kind of a pain in the ass. And I was like, okay, like I forgot that one thing, but like I was doing 100 things.
What about the 100 things
that I did? This one thing went wrong and it wasn't even the end of the world. So fuck it.
Yeah.
Like I can fuck up on, if I'm doing 100 things, like that's just statistical. You know what I mean? Like just say I'm doing 50 things, fuck 100 things, if one out of those 50 things, 3, there's a margin of error in everything you do. I mean, shit, even totally. Like with food production, like there's like a certain allowable amount of like rat shit that's okay in Snickers bars.
Right. Right. Yeah. The old one is how many wasps are in Fig Newtons.
Like there's always, like fuck, man. Yeah. So like it's never going to be perfect. Like the idea is that you want to get better every time you do it. You want to like, okay, I ran into this thing last time, so now I can foresee that one thing, and try it like along with all the other things that have come up over the years. Like, how can I like try to like soften that a little bit so it's not as big of a hit or it's not so traumatic to the whole project,
Absolutely.
So you just want to be, I think the big goal is not to try and aim for perfect, just try to aim for better than you did before, so you're always getting better. So like in New York, I went to this gallery that's been around. It's a blue chip gallery, really nice gallery. They opened up one in Hollywood. I've been working for that space, so I went to go see the New York squad. They've been doing it 30 years, It's fucking beautiful. It's fucking beautiful.
And just on that like low level scale, like or lower level scale, I shouldn't say low level, but
these guys are huge.
Yeah, yeah.
These guys are fucking huge.
But
you know?
is it like, all right, so we're talking just tens of thousands of dollars a piece, or is it more dialed back?
Enough to buy a house.
Really?
One piece.
That big?
Their commission.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like for us to buy a house, you know what I
Okay,
mean? Like, yeah. Like it's a really, really up there gallery.
Damn,
you know,
that's crazy.
I've been doing production for 16 years. So I've been doing everything from DIY galleries to blue chips and museums and shit like that since I was probably like 19, you know?
Mm-hmm.
My first clients were museums. So I'm basically trained for museums. So whenever I do a different gallery, like I'm usually one of the more knowledgeable dudes. That's the good thing about this gallery though, is like everybody I've been working with either knows as much of me as me or more. So that's been a really fun environment.
That's cool.
And like I said, these guys are doing it 30 years deep. I went and saw the New York space, fucking beautiful, you know, but their head of production has been in that one space for 15 years and they do improvements every year. So for 15 years, they've been getting better and better and better and better.
Wow.
To the point where like what I saw was fucking insane to me. I've been to museums that aren't even this, you know,
put together. Yeah.
You know, it's insane, but that's why they're making the big sales. That's why, you know, they have 2 different locations in major cities. And
See, that's wild, man. I was thinking like, cause I mean, professional galleries, you know, Tim Cantor in San Diego is like an oil painter.
Yeah.
He's like a big name down there, and he had a gallery in the Gas Lamp, and I worked down there. So I would just pop in and like check out the work all the time and try to schmooze the lady running it to like give me something for free, or, you know, even if it's like a book or something.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, even that, you know, that's $30,000-$40,000 a piece, you know? So, it's crazy to hear that you're like, no, it could buy a house just on the commission. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Like that's like a next level. And I don't even know what gets you to that level where you can charge that much for your work.
It's a lot
Just
of like
demand,
knowing who you are,
like
knowing people, all that shit.
Fuck, is it like a fine art gallery? Is it like more of like, Is it like guys that grew up in like graffiti, or is it like specifically just classically trained kind of fine art?
Yeah,
college grads?
I bounce around a lot in a lot of different worlds. That's actually why Bloody Gums has gotten to the places it does, is because like the work that we do individually with different clients is like just the tradesmen that we are, you know, creative design, whatever. Production, art handling, all that stuff like that. So like, but there's like these jobs I can't take pictures at. So that's why like nobody knows about these jobs. It's there's like NDAs and different things. So it's like most people don't even know that I'm doing this shit.
This shit is like book an appointment to come view the gallery.
Yeah. Nobody could, there's no gallery hours at this gallery. Yeah. Like if you know, you have to be like vetted before you can even walk into this gallery, you know, like, and it's funny because like when you walk in, you know, most galleries you think like you walk in, maybe there's like a front desk, and then like you walk into the gallery, like there's like a whole lobby and like offices before you even step into the viewing room,
to the space. Yeah. That's a trip, man.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah. It's really like, it's cool to see these things. Like I actually have very little interest in the actual works themselves. It's just not my style. Not not what I'm into. I can appreciate it, you know. It's like saying like, I can appreciate that Guns N' Roses is technically a great band. Don't like listening to it, you know. But I know Slash is an amazing guitarist, you know, for whatever people want to say about Axl. I guess he's a good vocalist.
So funny, dude. Yeah. That's a perfect example.
Yeah. And, you know, that's a mainstream thing. There's other bands and groups out there that are technically amazing that most people in a mainstream world won't even know about.
Right.
But within a niche audience of like very high end people or whatever, like that's their shit.
Well, and that's what it parallels music and art, right? Is like there's so many facets and so many different styles, and this band is technically proficient, amazing artists. Still, maybe not for me. Maybe too mathy, maybe too much plucking or whatever it is. I think that's dope.
There's a lot of jobs that I go on that I just say I'm not the audience, but it's a fucking job. I'll take it. You know,
you respect the quality of the work.
Sure, you know. And then to another extent, I'll go on the same trip. So that's a spot that I went to when I was in New York. So on this trip, I went to Orlando. I went to Miami Art Week. It was Art Week. You know, if you've been, it's the same thing over and over again. But if you haven't been, it's a lot of fun. Went to New York. New York was a lot of fun. So the Blue Chip Gallery is one thing that I did in New York. I did a few other things too, but to go to now the another contrast of like this Blue Chip Gallery in New York, I went to St. Louis. And I've never been to St. Louis before. Wouldn't think of anything other than the Arch, you know?
Yeah.
I showed up. I had some really good hosts, some St. Louis locals. They took me to Skate Laborious first. Have you ever heard of that?
That was the church that was converted into like the skate park.
It's a cathedral. Used to be a Catholic church.
I mean, it looks beautiful, man. I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's a couple of those types of places around the country, but that is one of the most striking ones.
Out of what I've personally been to, I've been to a good handful of things in my life, you know, out of my personal experiences, that was a very beautiful experience. Just to see the contrast of skateboarding and stained glass and stonework, and on top of it, like as a nerd for buildings. So like one of the things that I nerded out on my trip was I went to the Statue of Liberty and like actually read about how it was built. Just blew my fucking mind. And then again, on a contrast, I went to this cathedral, which is like hand carved stone, stained glass windows. Is built in the 1800s, so like nothing's like prefabbed or whatever.
Right.
Everything's handmade, and then on top of it, like they put in all these like skate ramps, and then they have like murals from artists all over the world. So you know, the guy who runs it, Dave, he was talking about like putting two things that don't usually go together side by side.
It's like the juxtaposition of the two.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And St. Louis has a huge culture. I would have never known this, but there's a guy, Bob Casserly. You know, the thing that he's really famous for is City Museum. If you've ever heard of that, it's insane. So you've seen Tio's.
Yeah.
Imagine a 5-story theme park.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it's all made out of concrete.
All just hand built like that.
Insane. That's another spot I took a tab at acid at, actually. And I'm really glad I did.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, we're talking about Tio's, but like, you know, other people may know Meow Wolf, right? Like Meow Wolf took their inspiration from this, but Meow Wolf is like plaster of Paris and paper mache and like, you know, pre-made, you know, fabricated stuff. Like this is all like hand built, you know, I don't even know how many years in the making. Everybody who worked on it since then has become like professional fabricators and like all this crazy shit. They do work for like rich tech people or people in Vegas, and like that's how they like, you know, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Dave is one of these guys, the guy who's running Skate Laborious now. He's one of the guys that built City Museum with Bob Casserly.
Okay.
And Bob is just kind of a crazy dude. Like, you know, I heard this story, you know, as I'm exploring St. Louis, I'm talking to a few different people. And I heard this story about Bob when he was 16 years old. He grew up on a farm. And, you know, like the property next to him, there was like a 12-year-old boy that he just became friends with because they were like, you know, next to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So one day he rides his dirt bike up to this guy's house and, you know, he asked the guy's dad, like, hey, can I borrow a chainsaw? And the dad's like, sure. Doesn't think nothing about giving a 16-year-old kid on a dirt bike a chainsaw. You know? So he's like, just don't cut anything off. You know?
You're on the farmland.
You know what I mean? So he takes this chainsaw, and what he does is he rides down, like there's a main highway on the way to his farm that he grew up on. And this is in Missouri somewhere close to St. Louis. They put up a bunch of billboards at the time, and he was pissed because it was blocking the view to his farm, and he just hated the way it looked. So in one night, he took this chainsaw on his dirt bike and cut down 30 of these billboards. And he cut them down like trees, so he like made sure they fell off the highway, all that stuff. Like he's a smart dude. He wasn't just some idiot. He did it the right way, but he cut down 30 billboards in the middle of the night to clear the view of his farm, and then like went back and gave this guy his chainsaw. Like this is like him when he's 16 years old, you know?
Yeah.
So he goes on to build this huge thing. He buys a shoe factory. I mean, he's done a bunch of shit, but in this instance, he buys a shoe factory that's like a 10-story building. And property in St. Louis is super cheap. It's insane.
Right.
You know, we grew up in California. Some of us know New York. Like property is insane, but in St. Louis, property is super cheap. So he buys a shoe factory and he turns it into this like crazy fun house. He's like putting rebar and concrete and everything. There's like horror stories of people getting stuck in these like tunnels. So like the guy who took me, he's an older guy. He's, you know, he's a little bit thicker now. I guess when he was young, the first time he went, there's this tunnel that goes underneath. Like, so you go in, and like one of the first things you see past the gift shop is like this big tree, you know, built up, and like the tree is built up so that like kids can run through inside and go through like the top and all this stuff like that. But there's also a tunnel that goes underneath it that's like taking you to the roots. Sorry, I'm like hitting your table.
You're fine.
That's like going through the roots. But I guess in the middle of this tunnel, there's like a hump. And like if you're a kid, it's easy. You just go through it and you go through it.
There's like a 3-foot clearance or something.
Yeah. But if you're a full-ass adult, like you get stuck on this hump, and it's like a tight tunnel. He said like he's never had problems with claustrophobia until this, and like you can see it in his eyes when we walked in. Like he was traumatized. He was like, "Oh yeah, this is," like he told us a story ahead of time, you know. And then when we get there, he's like, "This is the tunnel," and like you could see it. Like he's like
he's reliving it.
Yeah. And when we were checking out the gift shop, they were like, "Oh yeah, people get stuck in there all the time," and we're like, "So how do you get them out?" He's like, well, we try to coax them out, you know, but if they don't, then we got to call the fire department. We're like, well, what does the fire department do? Like, just try and coax them out.
Like,
there's nothing, like, it's like, you can't like get in there.
You can't dig in there.
Yeah. I actually, probably like at the peak of my acid high on that one, when you go outside, there's just like a whole little fun house, like castle walls and like all this like crazy shit to climb through in between, you know, and it's just like, it's not rebar. It's like this really thin silver tubing. It's metal, but they bend it and they weld it all together and stuff like that. But I guess it's like really high weight capacity. It has to be, because they have all these tunnels that are just like these narrow little, like, 2-3 feet tunnels that are like literally just floating in the air going across each other. And there's like in the middle of this, there's like a spiral staircase, and there's an airplane, like a little Cessna, that's just like attached to the top of the spiral staircase.
Suspended up there, yeah.
Yeah, and like it's held on by like maybe one cable and like two of these like rebar tubes that I'm talking about. And there's two of these airplanes, right? Sorry. There's two of these airplanes, and they're just like floating. And so you go in one. I mean, if one person's in there, you feel this whole thing rocking, and you're just like, in my head, I'm just like, this thing's gonna fucking
worst
crash,
nightmare.
I'm gonna fucking die, and I'm on acid, and I'm tripping the fuck out, and like my friend's laughing at me because like he could see my face. He said my eyes were like this fucking big, and so I'm in there, and I'm like, yeah, and he's like, are you gonna go through the tunnel? I'm like, fuck no, and then I'm like, we go to the other airplane, and the tunnel goes from the back of one airplane to the wing of the higher airplane. And he's like talking shit. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. When am I ever going to be here again? Like, who knows,
Can I do it?
So I fucking did it. So I fucking climbed from one tunnel, from one airplane to the other. And like, you're just looking. It's just, you can, whenever it's like, oh, don't look down. You can't not look down.
Right.
Because the shape of the tunnel makes you look down, And I was like already freaking out climbing up it. But the worst part was like when you actually have to like get onto the wing of the higher airplane.
Yeah.
And it's just like the wing is like this fucking narrow, because you're like literally getting on the tip of the wing. You're not like going in the middle of the wing where it's like nice and spaced out. Like, and it's like a small plane. So you're like climbing over, and like this one part going like this is like the most terrifying shit.
I couldn't do it, dude. I would trip.
I was already tripping, and I was just like, I can't go back now. So I did it, and I'm glad I did, because like I said, whenever am I ever going to go back there?
Yeah.
But it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that, dude.
Yeah,
That's so funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're about at time.
Yeah.
Before we get out here, tell us a little bit more about what you have coming up with Bloody Gums, and where people can check you out.
Okay. So we got the pop up on the 28th. That's in El Sereno, on Alhambra Ave. I can send you guys the flyer. We're opening up a shop, like I said, late March, early April. We have a studio there now. There'll probably be studio hours there as well. Probably doing some more pop-ups. I'm doing a pop-up with Deladesso on Art Walk in Riverside.
Nice.
We're going to both be airbrushing. So one thing we didn't talk about is I've been airbrushing a lot lately.
Yeah. I actually want to get into that. We'll have you back, dude. We'll do another one.
Yeah. I think the trip was a fun one to talk about on this one.
Yeah, that was fun.
But yeah, so we're airbrushing over there. That's in Riverside at Urge Palette, Paint Sugar Gallery, downtown Riverside.
What day is that?
I will tell you right now. I want to say January 5th, but let me just make sure.
And check out at Bloody Gums Collective, right?
Yeah. Bloody Gums. My personal one is A-Bars, just ABARS. January 5th. That's going to be me, Deladesso, and a few of the other guys. He has a show there right now. It's already open.
Right.
It's really good.
Is that the closing ceremonies?
No.
Is that day or no?
No, it's going to be open all the way through January. So he's going to do different pop-ups through all the way till the end of January. I think they did December to hit that art walk, but
Gotcha.
It was just a slow month, so they gave him a second month for that one.
Hell yeah.
So he did really good. I know we're out of time, but real quick, like the one thing that I'll say about that show is it's very common to go see a show where people just are putting pieces on a wall, and that's like the show. Totally fine, but I think one thing as Bloody Gums is like we always want to do like more than that. We want to build
immersive,
something, paint something, So he painted all the walls. He has a bunch of props in there.
Hell yeah!
It's just if you've ever seen Moss Fun or Los Dumpies, it's a section of Moss Fun and Los Dumpies. Really cool.
Nice, yeah.
It's like being inside of a cartoon.
Check out Deladesso. Shout out, fucking Richie the King.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, fuck yeah. Thanks again for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Sorry, Jim wasn't here. I know you wish you could be, but thanks for everything you invite us to and everything you do for the community. And, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Rat Nest Podcast. Catch us every Friday for the video on YouTube and anywhere you stream your podcast for the audio. Go to ratneststickerco.com for zines, prints, stickers, comics, and more. Anything else, dude?
Nothing. I'm good.
Hey,
Happy holidays.
Bloody Gums. Let's
New
go.
Year's. Yeah.
All right. Happy New Year's.
Yeah.